Welcome everyone to Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai, wherever you are listening or watching to this podcast or YouTube video. And I am so excited coming from not Japan this time. Today she is in America in her childhood bedroom, I just discovered, which I think is fabulous because my parents no longer live in my house. So I don't have a childhood bedroom to go back to. So I'm very jealous. Is today's wonderful guest, Nina Cataldo. Welcome, Nina.
Thank you. And this is a semi-childhood bedroom. They moved here after I went off to college, but
okay,
they've been here for 10 years, so it's still home to me. And it's nice to be able to chat with you from across the Pacific Ocean now.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. So I'm going to read a little of your bio just to introduce you so everyone knows who you are and what you do. So Nina is a DEI facilitator and multicultural communication specialist based normally in Tokyo, Japan, but you grew up in the Pacific Northwest of the US and came back to Japan at the age of 23. And Nina is the amazing powerhouse founder of Hafu Ladies, which we're going to talk about a lot today, and also the co-founder of the Brave and Bold Mastermind program for Asian women entrepreneurs, which we're also going to talk about today. And I remember when you announced that you were going to quit your job and go on the peace boat for 4 months, and you worked as an interpreter. And then you came back to Japan, and lots of things changed for you.
Yeah. It was a crazy time really with deciding to quit my full-time expat cushy job and then going on this world tour around the world on a boat. And then I really calculated everything to be able to come back and be able to work full time as a travel writer, because that's
Right.
what I was doing on the side while I was working at a publishing firm. And, right as I decided to do that, is when Corona hit. So travel was not the first thing on everyone's priority list. Yeah. All that work dried up. At the same time, I think it was a silver lining in terms of me being able to pivot and use my skills for different aspects of my career. So it's been a wild ride the last year and a half or so, but it's been a really, really fun discovery for sure.
Yeah. I think there's many people who have had a wild ride in the last year and a half, things which they expected to happen, haven't happened, change of plans. And kind of interesting as well, though it's given a lot of people time to think about their ikigai, to think about what's getting them out of bed in the morning, what they're doing, what makes you feel iki, right? What makes you feel iki, waku, what makes you feel excited and alive and have those moments. So I'm going to dive right in with that question. So for you, Nina, how would you describe your ikigai? How does it show up for you in your life?
Yeah, so ever since I was young, as a teenager, I've always said, when I think about my future career, I always said, as long as I can make an impact, a positive impact on one person's life, then I feel like my purpose on this earth has been accomplished. And with that said, I think community building and creating a social circle for people where they can feel safe and comforted and find people like themselves has been a huge aspect of what I find important in life. So that I would say is my ikigai, is being the creator of this community, of this safe space, and a place where people can connect with one another and empower one another as well.
And you said from when you were young, is that a role that you would sort of play in your childhood, when you were even very young, right? I remember Dr. Ashley Dash on a previous podcast was talking about going back to those little pictures of herself when she was 7 or 8, the sort of genius zone. Is that something you did then?
I think I've always been a very social person, and I'll take that back. I was actually very, very shy growing up, but I really came out of my shell in junior high school.
Right.
And at that point, I really loved the aspect of connecting people. Even in high school, my friends and I used to throw parties.
Yes.
Parents approved. Parents let us throw parties, kinds of things, but we would always be the one, in charge of the social aspect of bringing people together. So it's really been something that I always found myself enjoying setting up and seeing people interact with one another in. And so I think that really stuck with me since I was younger. I, as a young shy person, especially like moving from Japan to the States and whatnot, like I remember being very shy. I remember being very excluded, especially in more of the cliquier schools that I went to. And I always remember thinking like, I never want anyone else to feel the way I did. So I think that really stuck with me. So even now when I see someone new, like I'll be sure to talk to them, bring them in, connect with them to other people. And that's really, really stuck with me, that empathy of knowing how it feels to be on the other side and knowing that I don't want anyone to feel like that in any circumstance.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful. And I think it reminds me of one of the elements in the Ikigai Nine is, which is an assessment that's recently been validated in English. And it's about sort of 9 different areas that you can look at in your life, about like hope for the future, feeling positive about the future is one element, thinking about like learning and just kind of generally, you know, how you can improve yourself. And then there's a big element that's all about like community and feeling like you're contributing to someone, feeling that someone needs you, that kind of vibe, I guess. And I love what you said, you know, like if you are in a new space and you don't know anyone, and that person who comes up and says, "Hey, Jen," or, you know, see the name badge, "Hello, Jen, how are you? Like, nice to meet you. I'm Nina. I'm the host of this group." And that small step is so important for those people.
Absolutely.
And we don't realize, right, how much it changes someone's experience of the world. So bravo.
Yeah, thank you. It's definitely something I experienced moving from school to school. Just being in different settings, moving from country to country. And it's like, yeah, we really need it's just that one person that says hi to you. That's all it takes for someone to like come out of their shell or feel more comfortable to be themselves in that space. So providing that sort of opportunity in that space is just something that's always been really important to me.
Awesome. And that's a great takeaway for everyone listening and watching, just to be that one person. If you're in, especially because like we're going to be at some point kind of moving out of our caves, right? Moving out of lockdown, like what does it look like at a networking event? And if you can be that one person, because I think, you know, even as an extrovert, it's going to be quite difficult to kind of move back into society. I forgot how to talk to people. I'm glad I'm doing this podcast, but
it's funny. It's funny too, because when I say that I'm really shy, a lot of my friends are very surprised to hear that. But my mom is like, "Yes, Nina is shy." And the thing is, I think when I know more than one person, I feel more comfortable in a situation to be myself. But if I only know one person or if I don't know anybody, then I'm really, really shy. And I know that a lot of people are in that same kind of realm. So really being able to pinpoint that and being able to be that comfort point for one person or more, that's just so important.
Wonderful. That's a great ikigai. I would like to be the comfort point for someone, and how that makes you feel when you're able to provide that space. So beautiful. And also, I love the idea of you never wanted to feel like that again. I've seen that like as a driver in a couple of people that I've spoken to. So Violet on the previous episode, and even Zane on episode 1, he talked about this terrible job that he had, and he's like, and I knew that's not what I want to do with my life. This doesn't make me feel icky at all. It makes me feel whatever the opposite of icky is. Like definitely not like something I'm leaping out of bed for. And so it's interesting, I think, that I don't want someone to go through that, and I don't want to go through that again, is also a way that people are reaching into their ikigai. And you kind of took that to an amazing degree with your community of Hafu ladies. So I would love to hear, you know, the origin story of how you arrived at it, and tell us everyone all about Hafu ladies.
So when I moved back to Tokyo 6 years ago now after college, everyone in college was telling me, you're so brave for moving to a whole new country. And I was like, I'm just moving to my motherland. Like, this is no big deal. I'm just moving back. But then I realized when I arrived in Japan that I was totally getting, treated as a foreigner, as someone that is not Japanese. And I felt really out of place. And I'm still very, very close with my international school friends that I went to school with in Japan when I was younger. And when I talked to them about it, they grew up in Japan all the way through high school and then off to college in the States or whatnot. But they were kind of desensitized to it, oh, we're just used to it. We just stay in our own circle. But I was the opposite of, I was just out in the Japanese society and I really didn't know how to handle it. It was not something I had to confront in the United States, this aspect of being othered. Right. And luckily, about 2 years into living in Japan, I met people who are part of the Hafu community. And I realized for the first time, oh, there is a Hafu community. There's a community for mixed race Japanese people out here. Right. And it was just so fantastic to be introduced to them. And I'm still very close with them. I'm very still active with everyone. But a few months into it, I was feeling like, oh, it's an online community. I was like, oh, I want to ask this question, or I'm wondering about this. But a lot of things kind of pertain to being a woman as well. That intersection of being a female identifying, woman identifying, as well as mixed race Japanese. And I felt not 100% safe asking that sort of question or bringing up those kinds of discussion points within that community that engaged with parents of Hafu children as well as men and whoever. And I just wanted to know, and I knew that as a woman, as a Hafu woman, I wanted a space where it was just Hafu women identifying folks who can talk about these things. And so it was just like, doesn't exist, I'll just create it. Yeah. And
sorry to interrupt, why do you think it didn't exist yet? Why wasn't anyone doing it?
Well, I'm not sure. There is one group that's like Kansai Hafu women's group, but they're very much like social, grabbing dinner together and whatnot, and that's great. But it wasn't as much discussion based, and I don't have an answer for why it didn't exist, but it just didn't.
It didn't, and so I'm gonna do it then.
Yeah,
I want it, so I'm gonna do it. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because I still, from time to time, get questions like, "Oh, why isn't there a men's group?" Why isn't there a men's group? And I always say, like, you can make one. Like, if you want it, you can make it, but people don't make it. So it's kind of funny, but I think, yeah, when you don't see something that you think is a need for people, then I think it's just so important to create it and see how it flourishes. I had no idea what it was going to be like, and I'm humbled and grateful of how it has emerged to how it is now. So
and so where is Hafu Ladies now since you launched?
Yeah, 2.5 years ago now, and online we have 1,000, a little over 1,100 members in the Facebook group, and it continues to grow. The lucky thing about the past year, because when we first started out, it was a lot of social events in Tokyo, just on the sole basis that I was based in Tokyo, but luckily the silver lining.
I love that. Like, I'm here, this time works for me, so we're gonna have it here.
Exactly. And no one thought about online onnomi and things like that then, but the silver lining truly in the last year has been that we can make our global community into something that is truly global, in the sense that we can do online drinking events or online educational events, which has been a huge factor in our community in the past year, is doing different talks, bringing in guest speakers, having discussions, Q&As, those kinds of things that really bring our community itself closer together, and for others outside of the community to know what we are doing as well.
Yeah. And I really love, obviously I'm not a member of Hafu Ladies because I'm a Hafu mama. And actually I wanted to ask you about that. because you'd mentioned, you know, maybe some of the challenges that happened in some of the Hafu online communities where you're having to deal with, parents of Hafu kids, and like, were there some difficulties? Like, what kind of things happened? Just so I can be a better Hafu mum.
It's a really challenging thing because obviously every parent wants what's best for their children.
Yeah.
And every parent is going to defend their children and act in a way to make sure that their children are safe.
Yeah.
And I 100% empathize and understand that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, parents that are monoracial or whatnot, they aren't us Hafus. So there's a lot of differences there. And so I think a lot of times, I don't want to say specifically what kind of people or who or whatnot, but a lot of times in the groups, there's an imbalance in the types of parents that exist within the Hafu community that come up with their own bias or their own ways of parenting. And it often makes us Hafus who've gone through the lived experience feel belittled and ignored in our own experience. And that's what I've seen in a lot of the issues is, you know, for example, like a Hafu person will come with this and this happened, how should I deal with it? And then parents of the Hafu kids will be like, oh, my kids don't think about that, don't think about that, or that kind of thing. And other Hafus will be like, well, actually, I felt like this. I don't know, it's really hard to say, but we feel very unheard and belittled, and unsafe in that sense. And the thing is, yes, again, parents want what's best for us, but they don't know exactly what it feels like to be Hafu. I've had a lot of parents, when I talk to them about the Hafu ladies community, because they have Hafu daughters who are, say, my age, the parents will be like, well, my kids have never gone through a racial identity crisis, so they don't have to be part of the community. And I'm just like,
you're like, no, your kids have never told you about their racial identity crisis that they've had.
Exactly. No one will tell you no one will tell you they need therapy, but everyone needs therapy. just a joke. Yeah, not necessarily, but it's the same kind of thing. Like, they might not talk about it, but you never know. And like, sometimes it's like they don't even know that they needed a community where they feel like they really truly belong in until they're part of it, and then they realize how needed it was. I mean, that was the same for me. Like, when I really reflect on my childhood and like my university years, like a lot of my friends, a lot of my classmates, or a lot of my roommates in college were like mixed race Japanese, but it was never something we talked about. And it's only literally recently that I'm just like, we actually had a lot in common in the sense of identity, and we never talked about it. We were all accustomed to being like westernized Americans, kind of succumbing to the white culture or whatnot, but it was something we never talked about. And it's something that's so prevalent in my life now in Tokyo, because it's just so in my face. And it's just so fascinating that I never realized I needed it, but now that I am part of it and able to speak about it, it's just like so comforting to know of people who can understand me on both sides and on all angles of my life, and be able to empathize and understand one another, from the angle of being a woman to being an angle of an Asian woman, to a mixed race Asian woman, to a white woman that's mixed and living in another country, like all these different identities that I carry within myself that I'm able to identify with.
It's amazing. It's just so, like, it's so empowering to hear that you took that feeling of, you know, not being safe, and then you've turned it into something so positive and a great place. And I just really applaud that you've done that. You've created this amazing, 1,000 plus members, and you did, I heard a lot about the stuff that you were doing like through lockdown, making it more global, and like really highlighting different individuals within the community and their skill set. And it's not like we're just going to talk about being Hafu. It's like, no, and this person is an amazing X who happens to be Hafu. That's like why they're here in this community. But it's really about like focusing on you know, you're not just here as the token Hafu to talk about your Hafu experience. Like there's actually all these different identities that we have as humans, and skill sets and interests and things that we can bring.
And that's been one of the coolest parts of it, I think. Like I hosted an online dance event with one of the Hafu girls who is a dancer, and she led a kind of impromptu dance thing, and we invited some of our mutual friends daughters who are Hafu to come on the Zoom. And like afterwards I stayed on, you know, they're like 10, 11. I stayed on with them, and it was just so great because it wasn't like, talk to me about how you're Hafu. It was like, they were like, Nina, what are your favorite movies? What music do you like to listen to? And we talked about just quote unquote normal things. And like, and that's what I like, that was like a moment that I was like, this is like what we need in our community, is to like normalize ourselves. We're not exoticized by anything, that we can just like talk about daily things, that we just happen to be bound by this commonality of being mixed race Japanese women, but that's not at the forefront of who we are, and that we have so much other stuff in common. And I just love talking to the younger girls because I want them to be able to grow up with people who are in their lives who are like them racially, you know, that sort of identity, but in all aspects, just like an older sister, an older senpai figure of whatnot that they can look up to. But also be able to go to them if they do have those kinds of crises or worries in their lives as well, in a safe space. So that was a really, really beautiful epiphany for me to experience as well.
That's amazing. Yes. You know, I always offer to my daughter, but she's just no.
That's okay.
It's great to know that when she needs it, it's there.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's such a journey, and some people don't need it, and truly don't need it, or find it when it's just whenever the right time in their lives, and that's all totally fine. But the fact that like these resources exist and people know about it, I think that's the most important aspect of it.
And what's changed for you, you know, personally? It's like since you launched this community, and also obviously you've launched this mastermind piece as well. What's it giving to you as a human?
The bottom line is purpose. I feel like I feel more connected and in tune. It was something that I grew up not being connected to. So feeling more grateful for who I am. And yeah, I think just feeling more purposeful and empowered to be who I am, because again, like growing up, these are aspects of myself that not necessarily I masked, but never put thought into. And the reality of the world, for better or for worse, is that a lot of times we are defined by the fact that we're women. We're defined by the fact that we're Asian. These are aspects that actually affect our careers and our lives. And so bringing that to the forefront, but still persevering through those kinds of aspects of who we are, and being empowered about those facts, have been a really enlightening fact for myself as well.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit though about your Brave and Bold Mastermind. Did I get the name right?
Yes, you got it correctly.
Good.
It's something my business partner Christy Ishii and I have been working on. We're just in love with it. And it's been really awesome. So our whole concept is we're a program that helps Asian women entrepreneurs accelerate in their business, or to turn their passion projects into their livelihoods. And we're about just over halfway through with our first cohort of
Wow.
our 14-week program. We just had a retreat last weekend, an online retreat that held speakers who are all Asian women entrepreneurs, some Hafu, some not. And it was just so inspiring. We ourselves are shocked by our whole principle in running a business around only supporting Asian women entrepreneurs, and we were able to like basically uphold our whole, like all of our whole retreat by having only Asian women entrepreneurs as speakers. Everything from like, we're doing a photo shoot in a few weeks, we're bringing an Asian woman photographer. Everything we give perks to our cohort members, and they're all goods that are created by Asian women entrepreneurs.
Right.
Everything about our business is around that. And it's been so much fun. Yeah. And Christy being in the US, me in Japan, it's just great to have that coast to coast feel. And she brings a lot of skills that I don't have. I bring a lot of skills that she's not good at. So together we make a great team. And
Amazing.
it's been fantastic to see our cohort grow in terms of who they are. We have a small cohort of 3 women in the program right now, which makes for a great weekly call of just 5 of us.
Yeah.
And we've really seen each of them grow and progress in their businesses, in what they want to do, and as people as well, gaining more confidence, being able to tell their stories in a way that they want to. That's been really fantastic. Like even the people that we choose for our retreat or guest speakers, we keep our cohort in mind, and we think who would be good for them to listen to talk to, and whatnot. So we've made it into a program that not only helps them accelerate in business, but also network,
Right.
meet other people, and meet one another and help one another as well.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, I sort of see the red thread going through from what you've done with Hafu Ladies, and also like the party planning that you did when you were at the at high school, junior high school. This like curating the space, bringing the people together, making the right atmosphere, and it just seems like my observation of you as an outsider is someone who is really focused on making like an amazing experience. And you look at all like the little details and all these, just, as you said, like the perks and the different parts, and like how you put things together. It's always super professional, but always with so much heart as well. And I think that's amazing to observe. Yeah.
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it's all about creating that experience for people. And I just want people to never feel like I ever did, feeling isolated or whatnot, and making sure that everyone's happy and empowered and excited to work together or work on their own, whatnot.
Yeah. And I love your energy. Like I feel that kind of Ikigai can coming through you, as you like the feeling of Ikigai as you describe this. I'm guessing you're feeling in yourself as you say it.
I mean, yeah, my career is my passion project, and that word passion is massive in my life. And I feel it to be very similar to Ikigai. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of synergy between those two words for me. So
yes, that's amazing. And I wanted to also comment on the origin story of this mastermind as well. I thought it was you can tell it better than me, but my impression as well was that you turned something very negative into something amazingly positive. Could you share a little bit about that process?
Yeah, it was actually kind of a coincidence, because Christy and I started talking about doing the mastermind like late last year, early this year. So it was before the kind of the turn of the Asian hate that was happening in the United States. We just happened to be launching the launch date just happened to be just around when this was starting to emerge in the States. And around that same time, I experienced one of the worst hate, I don't want to say hate crimes, but one of the worst discriminations I felt in Japan so far. And unfortunately, it's something I face most days in Japan, with microaggression, being, told I'm not Japanese, your Japanese is so good, can you use chopsticks, all this and that. But someone really grilling me, interrogating me for 10 minutes or so, and really kind of bringing my spirits down of what it means to be myself, what it means to be Asian, what it means to be mixed race Asian. And that experience kind of really reminded me to not just feel down from an experience like that, and remind myself that like those kinds of reactions, why we need to actually be more visible and educate others about why Asian women in the forefront, mixed race Asian women in Japan, those kinds of people are so important in our society.
Yeah.
So it really was just an accelerator into reminding me that I need to continue doing the work I do, and to remind other Asian women to not back down and be themselves and be confident in what they do as well.
Yeah. And I love that you did the great call out for looking for info of and more role models of strong Asian women. So it's not about being victims, but instead and as you're doing with this cohort, right, and with this program and with Hafu Ladies, just the whole thing is there's opportunities, there's different things that you can see, that you can turn up in the world however you like. And let's try and find people who inspire you and who look like you and seem somehow, recognizable lived experience that you can draw on. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so
powerful.
important.
Yeah, amazing. So I don't want to keep you in this negative space, but I'm going to ask you one more negative question. So I apologize for that, but it's something which has come up with a lot of people who are very sort of driven in their Ikigai, where it's almost this kind of the vocation element, really strong calling and the passion project. So I know that Sarah Lou talked about it from the Dream Collective, that she was, so focused. And then Robin Lewis from My Mizu is about to burn out, and he has luckily cut that and made some changes in his lifestyle, which is great to see. And in the questions, you also shared a little bit about some of the difficulties that have happened for you, Nina, for integrating your Ikigai, about just the exhaustion you feel.
It's we both work with a coach, the same coach, and I know from working with her and knowing myself that I tend to carry a lot of people's emotions and weight of that on myself.
Yep.
And I think anyone in a managerial role, in a leadership role, knows that sometimes that's really, really difficult when you carry everybody's emotions in them.
Yeah.
And I am one of those people who really empathize and work with people, and that definitely has brought me to exhaustion, especially at times when there is tension, especially racial tension, cultural tension within our community as well. And that has been really difficult to deal with on my own, especially because I don't have the authority to represent everybody in our community. I should never have that authority. I'm just one person as well. So trying to balance that between the line between being the leader for the community versus still keeping my individuality and only being able to represent myself and not speak for others.
Right.
That has sometimes been difficult, definitely.
How do you manage that?
It's hard. I definitely think on an emotional level, and perhaps this is a privileged way to look at it, but I try to distance myself from it sometimes.
Yep.
Just on a personal level, I need that breather and to come back to the issue. I try to never leave something unsolved, and try to bring in others who are more authorized to speak on an issue, or whatnot to be the representative. But yeah, sometimes finding that line is very difficult. I've definitely seen myself try to take a step back in order to let things emerge on their own, evolve on their own, step in when I need to, but try to take a back seat if I can.
Right.
For better or for worse. That's the type of leadership that I personally believe in, is to empower others to be able to speak up for themselves,
right.
And to take the front stage. So that's what I've been doing the most of. I know I can do better. There's a lot I'm still working on in terms of growing the community. I know that I need others in leadership roles that are not people like myself, the white Hafu, Western Hafu type of people, and all that. So it's still something I'm working on. That's also been something that I personally do struggle with. I am a perfectionist. I'm a Virgo. I think we're both Virgos.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're perfectionists, which brings me into kind of the control realm. Well,
the word which is going in my head was control.
Yeah. And so I like things to be run a certain way, in the way I want to. So while I see my own community that I founded growing, which means I need other people with hands on deck. At the same time, it's been an issue for me to mentally realize that also means I need to let go of some control. It's something that's a personal issue that I work through, but I think it is an important aspect if you want to see your community grow and thrive in a positive manner as well.
Yeah. And it's making me think of, we talked about there's this idea within parts of Ikigai about community and the moai, and also talking about like feeling needed. But when you're needed too much and you feel needed too much, then that gets really heavy. But also that, how can you shift it? How can you, because doing the work, like being involved, is making you generally feel like I'm doing important things. I'm making this amazing space. And so, how does the next iteration show up? Who am I if I'm not like making all these decisions and doing all these things, right? What's my purpose now? It's like sort of another little transition and a kind of a little identity crisis we talked about before. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure that out. I think that making that transition is the hardest part. I think once you do it, it becomes much easier. Definitely. But making that first big leap is the challenge in itself.
Well, I will quote then the wonderful Ken Moggy, who's a neuroscientist who writes about Ikigai, and he always says, start small. So you don't need to make a big leap. You can just make a very, very small thing. I don't know what that would look like for you in your community, but there's an option for you.
Think about it.
An invitation to try that.
Definitely.
And when you talk about as well, like taking a step back and creating some room in your mind, shall we call it? What type of things do you do to relax and to let go and to have that? What's that part of Ikigai for you?
Well, in the last 4 or 5 months, I've come up with a better sleep routine.
Ooh.
Which I didn't realize was so important.
Tell me the secrets.
My
sleep's just awful.
Transitioning into a freelancer last year, it was just kind of like, I make my own hours. I can sleep until whenever. That's not the case, as I learned. So really having a time when I wind down, I take a bath probably 4 times a week at least. And then really slowly get into the sleep routine, going into bed by 10 p.m. or so, waking up by 8 a.m. or so every day. That has been a world of a change, getting that full more than 8 hours of sleep. And I've also started boxing, and and I like a lot of people have told me, I've started to treat it like a meeting. Like I block out that hour of the day
Mm,
and don't allow for meetings to happen and things. And that really gives me that fantastic routine throughout the week of at this time I go boxing, and that I think that physical energy shift has really helped me be a better um, leader, better person, just
yeah.
working as
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
so just little changes like that. I should be doing more things like meditating or yoga or whatnot, but small steps.
Well, if there's one thing that, I learned with interviewing all these amazing people through this Ikigai podcast, is really like, just do what makes you feel good. And if yoga doesn't make you feel good and meditation doesn't make you feel good, don't do
Yeah,
it. Like, if boxing is the moment where you feel flow, then yeah, just box.
that's true.
Um, I think, Ikigai can be so expansive, and it doesn't need to
Hmm.
be this idea of, I have to do this like checklist of like 10 steps I need to do every day in order to have
Right.
my integrated Ikigai. I think it's much more like just waking up today. I'm here. How do I want to live my life? What's going to make me
Yeah.
feel happy to be here? A sense of my own existence, right? And when you're boxing,
Yeah.
you feel strong, powerful. Maybe sometimes you feel weak, but you definitely feel like a sense of your own body and your
Yeah.
existence as a human being. You,
It's great. It's a way for me to get the frustrations out
yeah.
and then leave it there and then come back and be able to feel refreshed and renewed and be able to go into my work as a professional unbiasedly and however else I need to be.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
Yes,
good
great. So
routine.
everyone take up boxing. That's or something that makes you feel the same thing, where you can get that out and leave it. And so
Yeah.
what advice do you have for people who are, trying to find their Ikigai? They're not sure what their purpose is or how they want to feel.
Yeah, I was thinking about this for a while, and the only thing that I could really come up with was I think people really need to think about what gives them butterflies in their stomach,
Mm-hmm.
or the spark in the eyes. I think often, even when you're talking to someone who doesn't really know what their ikigai is, you as a third person, a third party, you know what their ikigai is better than they do because you
Ah,
see those little moments of like spark in their eyes or just like little like lift in the shoulders. Like I think there's a lot we can tell, and I think people really need to remind themselves of what gets them excited when they're talking about it. That was something definitely that I had to think about. It's, there's a lot that society tells us to do and be. Um, you should do this, you should do that. I should do this, I should do that. But if you're saying that in a way that brings you down, then that's not your ikigai. And so yeah, that the butterflies in your stomach, it's a term that often is reserved for romance, and it really shouldn't, because your career, like your livelihood, whatever you decide to do in your life, is as important or even sometimes more important than your romantic life. So however your relationship is with it. But yeah, I think really thinking deep about what brings you joy in that sense is
yeah.
how you find ikigai. It seems simple, but sometimes it's so hard to get to that point, and it took me years to figure out and be at that point as well. But it comes through just thinking about things, talking about things with others, and finding that, like, observing your own actions and realizing, oh, that just made me really like my hairs on my arms stand
Yes.
up, or
So everybody
things
gets
like
full
that.
body goosebumps.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
you don't even realize until it happens. Then you're like, oh yeah, that's the feeling that I need to ride with.
And that is Ikigai. It's like
Yeah,
the inside
absolutely.
out, that like the body
Yeah.
doesn't lie when you talk about
Yeah.
that topic. I'm full body goosebumps now, by the way. I'm definitely feeling Ikigai in this moment talking to you. And it's almost as well like the callback to what you said right at the beginning about like approaching people and talking to them. And I just thought, what a wonderful gift it would be if you said like, you know, Nina, when you were talking about blah, 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 you just like, I felt the spark. I felt the excitement in your life, and like observing and then naming it and noticing to someone else. Like what they do with it is their own business, but just to give that service to be like, your energy changed. I think you might have a little Ikigai hint going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to do that. That's my homework from this this session.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like even doing with just friends or people around you, I think a lot can come out of those kinds of conversations, and a lot of new things can emerge for others as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we are nearly out of time for our chat today. So is there any final messages, things that you want to tell people about Ikigai, yourself, things that they should do and take with them into the world?
Yeah, I think go with your gut. I again, like I say, I'm a huge control freak. I've spent a lot of my life wanting everything to be controlled, and this past year has been a huge year of surrender. And when you let go and let things emerge on their own, a lot of times you'll find the answers that at its core. So don't ever overthink. That's hard to do, but let things emerge as they come. Remember to surrender and follow your gut. And I think that's a great way to find your calling and find the road that you're supposed to follow as you go along.
Love it. Surrender and follow your gut. Reminds me of, again, Mogi Sensei. I feel like you two would have a great chance. He talks about like releasing yourself. Just really like release yourself from the process, like the surrender that you have described. It's really beautiful. I love that idea, because there's so many shoulds, aren't there, and so many expectations. And I think around this Ikigai, which as you've described it, you know, it's such a felt experience. Like, you know, it when you're in the moment, you're you know, as you do, like I'm sure when you're well, I'm not sure, so I'm going to ask if this is true, like, you know, when you're standing in front of your clients talking about DE&I topics, and maybe you see like the light bulb in the person, you feel the shift. Like, is that I feel like for me that's a moment of Ikigai. I would feel same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. If I get one person being like, I never knew that, or I never thought of it that way, I'm just like, there it is. This is why I'm here giving a speech to 100 of you. That one person having that light bulb go off, that's all I need. Hopefully more, but that's
ripple effect. Start small. Yeah, for sure. Release yourself. Start small. Don't expect to change the world overnight. That's wonderful. And so if people want to contact you, Nina, so first of all, like, I guess call out for Hafu ladies.
Yeah,
anything you want to share?
We're still working on a website. My apologies, but we do have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Hafu Ladies. And we also have a private group for anyone who is Hafu, mixed race, or really wanting to know the community. I'm still reserving parents of Hafus for another group that will eventually emerge in a way that I really need to be specifically made so it's safe. And you can contact me through my website, Nina M for Marie Cataldo .com. That's the best way to probably contact me. And hopefully I can work with people in the realm of DEI facilitation, or people wanting to be part of the Hafu Ladies community, or any of the programs, BBM, Brave and Bold Mastermind program that we'll be setting up again in the future as well.
Oh yeah. When's your next cohort going to be?
We're still deciding, but we're anticipating sometime in the fall.
So mark your calendars. Asian women, Asian female entrepreneurs, right?
Yes,
Yes.
we're super excited. I get to
Ready.
see Christy in person in a few weeks in Seattle.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so we'll have our own little retreat, just the two of us, to talk about the future of the program. So we're
It's
very,
gonna
very,
be
very excited.
so many Ikigai moments during that
Yeah.
time, I'm pretty sure. Amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you so much for all of your wisdom, and always blows me away because you are so young, so wise, and like so together, visionary, like just doing stuff, like riding with everything and doing stuff and turning things which have been difficult for you into these amazing and supportive spaces and opportunities for other people. So huge inspiration. I hope that my Hafu daughter grows up to be just like you, Nina, and will be a lovely Onesan for other kids as well. But if she doesn't, she'll grow up to be herself, and that will be amazing too. So
that's amazing. Yeah.
Yes. Come
Thank
on.
you so much,
Mama,
Jen.
be kind. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your stay in the US.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.